And then we have this very curious verse in the book of Psalm. Chapter 95, verse 6 of the book of Psalm, David says, Bo nishtahave va nikra'ah. Come, let us prostrate. Again, worship is wrong. Remember, let us prostrate and crouch. You remember kara that we talk about, right? So this is kara. Let us prostrate and crouch. And then it says, Nibreka lipne Yahweh. Let us kneel before Yahweh. So this is very interesting because if you remember the picture I showed you, kneeling comes before crouching, right? So first it's kneeling, then you crouch, and then what do? You prostrate. So kneeling, crouching, prostrating. However, Prophet David is reversing the order. Says, let's prostrate first, then let's prostrate and crouch. Let's kneel together. So what is David talking about? This is very curious. This is mysterious. In fact, I tell you, the Quran does the exact same thing. So by the time I've done with this video, you're going to understand that verse very clearly. Now, Psalm 138 has another curious thing. It says, Eshtahave el hekel katseka. It says, I will prostrate towards your holy temple. So it's telling you that this ritual has a direction. What is the direction of it? Yahweh's holy temple, wherever that is. Here, David is talking about Yahweh's holy temple and that his prostrations are towards that temple. But it's not only prostration, that's number one. That's only one thing. Then after that it says, Va'odeh. It says, and I will glorify, I will praise, I will give thanks to your name for your loving kindness and for your truth. So there's two things here. Prostration towards the holy temple, and also that prostration, that rituals also followed with something that is called praising, glorification. We're going to come back to this. You're going to understand this very well. Now, Psalm 5 says the same things. I will come into your house. I will come inside your house of Yahweh. Eshtahave, I will prostrate, again, wrong translation. I will prostrate towards your holy temple. Again, shows the direction is towards Yahweh's house, God's house. It also teaches us that whenever you go to the house of Yahweh, regardless of where that is, and we're going to get to it because Bible again teaches us where that is, you have to prostrate towards the temple. Now, Psalm 26 teaches us another thing. David says, my foot stands amadeh. This is another word that is used actually, but it's not as much. Amadeh stands in an even, bemishor, in an even place in the congregation. And then abarek, I will bless Yahweh. So what is it telling? This is the community salah, community prayer. When they're getting together, it says basically you have to stand on a flat surface, on a level surface. You don't want to stand on a hill or anything like that. David is teaching that as a person leading the community ritual prayer, community salah, you have to stand on an even surface. Now, Samuel 1, 20-41 gives us an example of how to perform an individual salah, individual ritual prayer. It says, when the boy had gone, then Prophet David, he stood up towards Negev, towards the south. So what does David do? David stands up and has a direction. Remember, we talked about Psalms that David was saying, I stand, I prostrate, I stand towards your holy temple, towards your house, wherever that is. Now David at this point is standing up, comma, and his direction is towards Negev. This is really important. Remember, the Temple of Solomon, the name is on it, was built by who? By Solomon. Solomon is David's son. So at this point, Solomon is not even born. So the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem did not exist at this point. And also, the tent in Shiloh is actually towards the north. It's towards the north, it's not towards the south. But David at this point is facing Negev. Negev is completely, Negev is a desert in the south of Israel. Is facing the south towards the desert of Negev. Is there a house of the Lord in Negev in the south that David is facing towards? And the answer to that is Petra, Jordan. Petra, Jordan. I have several videos on that. I'll put them in the link and you're going to see that. So he's facing towards Petra, Jordan at this point. And what did he do? So he stands up, just like I showed you to those pictures, and then fell on his face to the ground. So stood up, fell on his face towards the ground, vayishtahu, and prostrated, again, not bow down, and prostrated. How many times? 3 times. Now you remember this, right? We talked about the first time with Hezekiah and the second time, and then after that, Hezekiah commanded all the Levites to sing praises and do glorification with happiness, Psalms of David, and then the last time 3 times together, right? How many times did we talk about? 3 times. Now in this verse, how many times did David do the prostration? 3 times. So basically David did 3 of these movements. Stood up first time, second time recited the Torah, and then the third time was glorification, and then did the final prostration 3 times. So it's 2 parts. One part is the Salah, which is 2 units, and one part, which is the second part, is a glorification, which is only 1 unit. One more time. Salah, the ritual daily prayer, is 2 units. 2 units of those movements that I showed to you in that picture, right? But there's another thing that's not part of the Salah, it's separate. It's thanksgiving, glorification, it's praise. And this is just 1 unit. After your Salah is over, you stand up, you do that with happiness and glorify the name of Yahweh, your creator, and that is only 1 unit. So altogether, that's why David did 3 units. Now, do you remember there was a psalm that I told you, why is this the opposite direction? Let's get back to it, and you are going to understand that very well right now. Now, in that psalm, it says, let us prostrate. It starts with this, and crouch. Let us prostrate and crouch. And then it says, let us kneel, which is number 3. But the problem is that you can't prostrate and go backward and then kneel. That doesn't make sense, right? It's not in order. But something should ring a bell in our minds, talking about 3. So what is talking about? Let me show it to you. When it says, let us prostrate, it's talking about what? It's talking about the prostration in the first rak'ah. Quran does the exact same thing as well. So that is the first unit of the Salah. Let us prostrate and crouch. Now when it's talking about crouch, it's talking about this is a doubly. Salah is a doubly. Let us prostrate and crouch. This is for the second unit. So you start the Salah, you stand, you go to the first prostration, and you stand up, you do the second one, you do the crouching, and then the prostration, and then it says, let us kneel. It separates itself. This is no longer Salah. This is the first 2, and now this is the glorification. This is the third part. This is the glorification part, And in the glorification part, what is it pointing to? It's pointing only to the kneeling. It says, let us kneel. Our Creator, Yahweh, through the mouth of David, is teaching us that you have to perform your salah that way. It's basically, it has to be first two units, and then the third one is not part of the salah, is a glorification and praise, and you end it with, again, the same thing, basically kneeling, crouching, and prostrating, and then towards the end, you can put your hands up just like Solomon did, and you can also talk and do your supplication as well if you want to. So hopefully now you understand Psalm 95 verse 6 very clearly, where it says, let us nishtahave, let us prostrate, vanikra'a, and crouch. Then this is Salah is over. At this point, Salah or your ritual prayer is over. These are the two units, two initial units. At this point, it is over. Then you do actually what? Glorification. And during that glorification, as soon as your glorification is done, Nibreka, let us kneel. Lipne Yahweh Osenu. Okay? 1 Chronicle 29:20. This is a commandment of David to people, and said David to all the assembly that have gathered behind him. David is leading the prayer. Bareku, bless Yahweh. We saw that in Ezra, did the exact same thing. All of them. This is Bareku, is a command to start the Salah, to start the prayer. That's what a bless Yahweh. So what did the community do behind him? So blessed all the assembly Yahweh, God of their fathers, and Yik Edu, they bowed down, Vayishtahavu Yahweh, bowed down and prostrated. They have translated correctly here. Do you see that? This is the first time. They translated that prostrated themselves before Yahweh. Up until now, the same translation was translated as worship, but suddenly it changed to prostration. These inconsistencies cause people not to understand what's going on. So they bowed down and prostrate. So they said their prayer. At the end of their salah, they bowed down and prostrated themselves.